So this is the video for the completion of the assignment, the Tableau assignment for the course of Strategic Management Decision Making on GEB 4890, Section 901. My name is Cesar Quesada, and let's dive in. So at the dashboard, we'll be looking at the first visualization. Here we're comparing the contribution margin to the automation, its corresponding automation, and it was averaged out to 4 years worth of data for each product belonging to the company and also its primary segment. The automation range from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest automation you can achieve in the simulation, which it helped to increase your contribution margin by lowering the labor cost. As we can see at first, there is a little bit of a correlation of having a high automation to the high contribution margin. On the second graph, we can see a year-over-year contribution margin. The importance here is because like the previous graph just compares the contribution margin with automation on an average basis for those 4 years. We want to look also the contribution margin performance of the product throughout those 4 years. And on the third graph, we'll be looking at each of the product that we want to drill deeper into different variables that affected the contribution margin, not only automation, but also carrying cost, material cost, and overtime. So I'm interested in looking at the worst contribution margin in the industry. So we'll be looking at specifically at Dune from Digby in the size segment. As I have said, we have to compare, if we're going to compare, we have to compare a product with other product from the same industry because from the same segment, because different segment has different cost structures. So it won't be representative to other segments. So let's look at size. So I filter to size segment, to size only segment, and then let's look at the highest performing, highest contribution margin of that segment. That will give us Buddy. So we will compare Buddy to Dune using this wildcard. As we can see, Dune has an automation of 3 and Buddy has an automation of 5.6. Significant, but it still doesn't explain why the contribution margin of Dune is so low. So if we look at the year-over-year contribution margin, this only shows us that the performance of Buddy stayed very consistent, which Baldwin did a great job by maintaining a very high contribution margin throughout those 4 years, whereas Digby, which produces Dune, did very bad on 2025 and increased a little bit to a better performance on 2026. But the most relevant thing here is that not only automation is playing a part on the lower contribution margin, but also other variables like the carrying cost, which is measured by the units that you sell and the inventory that you have stored in your warehouse. Automation, which we already explained that reduces the labor cost, and material cost that it's outside of the scope of this video, but the material cost is affected by other variables like research and development. And then the second shift over time, you pay more for that marginal product that you produce for that second shift workers. The good thing here is that we have a one-on-one comparison with Dune and Buddy. As we can see, we have already established that investment in automation is important to reduce the labor cost. Labor costs for Dune increase. We can see the contrasting difference of automation investment in Buddy reduce its labor costs, which can improve its contribution margin significantly. So both material costs for both products decrease. So that means we can discard that variable and say that's totally not affecting the contribution margin. But the one variable that is really affecting the contribution margin of Dune is the inventory. The company is paying a really high carrying cost of the inventory that didn't sell in each of those years. And we can see it as like, for example, in 2026, it sold 66 units of 636, about 10-11% of the inventory that it produced, whereas Buddy has a very effective marketing of its product because it sold all the inventory, meaning that it didn't have to add that cost of carrying the inventory to its contribution margin that ultimately increase its contribution margin. So that concludes the video. Thank you for watching.